Councilman, welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
You organized a public hearing on data centers. We've heard a lot of talk from other cities across the state. The governor's taking aggressive action here. What more do you want to do in Dallas on data centers? Slow the growth, regulate the growth, get compensated for the growth? What's the idea here?
The main goal is to make sure residents have a say in where the data centers are going to be. Right now, it's kind of a free-for-all. We don't have this whole industry has blown up so quickly that the zoning and the planning for this type of use has not been able to keep up with it. So the request was for the Plan Commission to take up a review of the appropriate zoning, where the data centers should be located, where they should not be located, and what kind of standards should be in place to make sure they're regulated properly.
Have you heard from constituents about data centers here? We've heard it from across the state, other cities, but have they been reaching out to you on this issue?
Not like you would imagine on other issues like the city budget. The constituents are generally like just voicing concerns to the media. I've read the media reports just like everyone else, but my concern is that the data centers are going to continue growing, and then we're going to be faced with potentially huge problems. We don't know enough about them yet and what their impacts are on the environment to be able to really opine on what to do with them, but we can't just wait until we learn everything to start working on the zoning. It's important for us to get ahead of it and for us to start learning about it now, and that's what the Plan Commission is going to do.
And clarify me if I'm wrong here, but right now data centers are allowed by right in the city of Dallas. Is that the case?
In certain zoning categories. And again, this is just going off what's been told to me.
Yeah.
That mixed use 3 zoning categories, which is a large part of our commercial areas in the city, does allow for them. I just confirmed with city staff this morning that we have dozens of data centers throughout the city that I was not even aware of. I had asked, well, is this one location a data center? And staff said yes, and there's also like 15 more. And so we have a lot.
These are already there.
They're already there, already in operation in the city, in areas where they believe and staff believes the zoning is appropriate. So we're now catching up with the data center explosion to make sure we're regulating it for the future.
But there's no complaints from neighbors and from community so far on this?
Not to me. That doesn't mean there haven't been. I just think there's a general concern that we're hearing from the public at large.
There's talk of turning the storied Market Center there on the Stemmons Freeway into a data center. There's another big one just down the road from it we just learned not too long ago too. Mm-hmm. Council would have to approve that, is my understanding, on turning the Market Center into a data center. Is that something you'd be behind?
I'm not sure we'd have to approve it. I think that it will depend on the zoning that's in place there.
So that wouldn't come before council, you don't think?
I don't know. It just depends if the zoning is allowed or not. Okay. This is one of those things that's in limbo, that why we need the Plan Commission to jump on top of this and start working on it now. Would I approve it or not? I don't know that either. We don't have enough information at this point, which is why I filed the memo so we could actually get started working on this. We had a conversation on your show maybe a year or so ago about casino gambling and about the appropriate zoning for that. This is the same kind of conversation, except we have a little more time there because the state hasn't picked that up yet. But right now, data centers are at our door. They're here. They're already being built. They're already being operated. We've got to jump in front of it and take hold of it and give our residents some say.
The president said the other day that Texas is making a mistake by trying to slow these data centers, something the governor did the other day. The president says they're going to fuel the AI boom coming. There's probably no doubt about that. But is he wrong on Texas making a mistake over data centers and slowing them down?
I disagree with that comment. We need to at least get in front of it and understand what we're allowing into our city, regulate it properly, make sure there are environmental controls in place. I do agree that AI and technology is the wave of the future, and we need to embrace it. But that doesn't mean we just open the floodgates and let data centers go wherever they want. We still need to have regulations in place, community input on these projects.
There's a lot of money behind data centers. Is there an opportunity here at all for the city to add money to the bottom line, to the budget, by taxing these in some special way?
It's quite possible, and that is another thing we need to analyze with the city council. We are in, as I know we're going to talk about, a budget shortfall in the city, and where we can make that up with an industry that's making a ton of money, why would we not try to do that?
Let's talk about the budget shortfall in the city, $51 million in the hole. Is this a revenue problem or a spending problem?
I want to clarify that the $51 million was the budget shortfall indicated in June of this year. The city manager and the chief financial officer have eliminated that shortfall. So unlike the federal government, the city of Dallas has to balance its budget. So every year we have a balanced budget. What's causing it? So I think lack of revenues from sales taxes is the biggest thing. The convention center is undergoing renovation right now. And so all of the sales tax revenue that we would experience from all the tourists coming in for the convention center, we're not getting any of that right now. So we have a reduction in sales tax revenue. We have an increase in costs from our police and fire expenditures, from our pension obligations. And the city manager is trying to compensate for that.
We talked about FIFA last time you were here as well, too.
That's right.
Did FIFA contribute to this at all?
I think the FIFA numbers need to be reviewed to see exactly what the economic benefit is. Overall, it was a positive benefit for the city. We did see some sales tax revenues come in not as high as they were originally forecasted, but it did compensate some for the convention center being closed down.
So once the convention center is reopened here, do you think that's going to fill what's needed in the city budget? I know we're a few years away from that, but is that alone going to be all that's needed?
That's hard to forecast that far out. This is several years out, but the overall, by us having one of the largest convention centers in the country and being able to bring in larger shows and more professional type shows as well, we're expected to really boost our sales tax revenue. That doesn't mean the city should just sit back and assume that that's going to solve all the problems. The city manager still needs to build in efficiencies into her budget and use of AI and consolidation of departments, which she's doing now. She needs to continue doing that in the future.
You're chair of the Finance Committee. What's one thing Dallas spends money on that you believe it should stop doing?
Oh man, I think one thing we need to be doing as a city better is managing our real estate portfolio.
People may not realize, but Dallas, the city of Dallas owns, what, thousands of acres, right?
Technically 50,000 acres of real estate. Now, some of that involves our parks, and Fair Park is in that number,
Sure.
Our libraries, City Hall, parts of the city that are
That aren't for sale.
that are not for sale.
Sure.
And but there's also a lot of hundreds and hundreds of other lots that are included in that total amount. And right now, we do not have a real estate master plan. When I was appointed by the mayor as chair for the Finance Committee, one of the first things I did was push staff to start working on a real estate master plan. We're going to see the beginning of that plan this fall in the Finance Committee. And my goal, and I think a lot of my colleagues support this as well, is to see the city unload some of that real estate that we're just sitting on. I'm not talking about parks, I'm not talking about libraries, but some of the lots that we're sitting there maintaining and mowing. It costs you and me maybe $30, $40 to get our yards mowed once a week. But the city, as you can imagine, we got to go through procurement, we got to go through other things. It's $120, $150 to mow a lot. And so if you think about the holding costs of the city, not just making no tax revenue on the lots that we own, but also having to pay for mowing and maintenance of these lots, it adds up over time. If
the city sells all these lots that it has, all these unoccupied vacant lots it's acquired over the years, how much more money would that bring into the city?
That's a question I can't answer, but I will tell you that the use of those proceeds should go to address some of the deferred maintenance that taxpayers are otherwise going to be paying for on our libraries, our recreation centers, Fair Park, things like that. And it should also help chip away at the massive pension debt that we have for police and fire. If we can eliminate some of that delta on that debt, we can free up other dollars to pay for park services and library services, fixing roads, things that residents say are important to them.
So if the city gets rid of all these extra lots that are on the tax rolls right now, would that make a dent in the police and fire pension at all? Would that make a dent in the rest of the budget, you think?
The city has, like I said, thousands and thousands of acres at its disposal.
Yeah.
We have the Vilbeg property on I-30 in West Dallas. There is a service center in Canton in the heart of Deep Ellum that is I don't know how many acres, let's say 10 acres of prime developable real estate. Is that the best place for us to be servicing vehicles in the middle of Deep Ellum? No, we can find another place to service vehicles. We got to build it, we got to produce it, but that land is prime real estate. The permit office in my district in North Oak Cliff, that is along the line of what could be a future streetcar line, a few blocks from Halperin Park. And are these, having government facilities that are making no tax revenue on dozens of acres, is that really the best use of those facilities? Or could those services be moved elsewhere or consolidated into City Hall?
Dallas Park Department faces more budget cuts, potentially a $14 million hit. Is that right, because of the budget shortfall into next year?
That sounds right. I don't want to commit to that number. But that
no
sounds
worries,
right.
but let me ask you this. One idea is to let the Park Department erect these digital billboards on the perimeter of parks, not right in the center of a grassy knoll or anything like that. But doing so would help the Park Department generate its own revenue stream. That sounds on the surface like a pretty decent idea, so it would be protected from future budget shortfalls. Is that a good idea or not?
Bottom line is the Parks Department needs more revenue, and whether it's going to be billboards or whether they engage in public-private partnerships, bringing in sponsors to, sponsor a swim team at a rec center, the Parks Department needs to do something, and they're trying to address it in multiple ways. I'm very much open to the billboard idea as long as there are regulations in place on where it can face. You got to think most of these parks are next to neighborhoods, and I don't think neighbors want to look at a lit up billboard right outside their front yard. So how do we compensate for that accordingly? If the park is next to a highway, for example, like there's Carpenter Park, I believe, is right next to Interstate 345, between Deep Ellum and downtown. That would be an acceptable location to have a billboard facing traffic there and making revenue to support Carpenter Park and other parks. But a park like Kid Springs Park, which is surrounded on all sides by single-family neighborhoods, in my mind, very inappropriate for a digital billboard to be out there generating revenue. So it just depends on the location of the parks. I think the other huge opportunity, which I touched on, is for the Parks Department to engage in private sponsorships for our rec centers, and different things like that.
That's less visible, but still would generate revenue, right?
Yeah, and maybe more opportunities as well. Like if the Mavericks sponsored our basketball courts throughout all the rec centers, for example, that they could also then help with the programming.
We had the police chief on the program last week. I wanted to ask you about something I talked to him about, flock cameras in Dallas. Is that something you support or oppose?
Generally, I support flock cameras. They're placed in areas where they can certainly address crime.
Yeah.
So I think most of my residents do support them. There has been some pushback on invasion of privacy, and I think those concerns should be heard, and we should talk through them. But generally, my residents support it, and so do I.
Hottest topic right now, besides the budget and bonds, is the future of City Hall. Any idea when the public's going to see numbers on how much it's going to cost to move Dallas City Hall elsewhere?
According to city manager, should be later this month, sometime in either next week or on the last week of August. And that's what we've been asking for all along, is the apples to apples comparison of staying in City Hall versus moving out of City Hall, so we can tell the taxpayers these are your two options.
What do you expect these numbers to show?
I do expect the number to show that it's cheaper for us to move out and to reprogram City Hall. My question and concern will be how much? What is the delta there? We've gone through a lot of pain, a lot of political drama for us to get to this point. I think it's worth finishing the discussion and then deciding what to do from there.
And would you support City of Dallas leasing space elsewhere in the city center, or actually purchasing space?
If we move out, if that's the decision that council makes to move out, I think it would be wise for us to lease to own. So eventually we would own the property. I don't think the taxpayers would accept just leasing
a long-term lease.
A long-term lease with no permanent home for the city. I think they would want to see us in a permanent home.
When do you expect to vote on this? Because we thought the numbers were coming out in July. Now here we are at the end of August. I know you've been waiting for them as well, but do you expect a vote to happen in August? Do you think it's going to be pushed to September or even later?
City manager originally had told me before the break that the vote was proposed for the last meeting in August. I have not confirmed that that's still the case. I don't see any reason why it won't happen then, but I think that's worth watching.
City Council decided to put a bond on the November ballot, more than $400 million. The other option was almost $1 billion in bonds. Why did that get pared down so much?
After going through the discussion with the chief financial officer, listening to the community, we all agreed, I didn't say we all, the majority of council agreed that it was wise to not do the pension obligation bonds right now. Just financially, it doesn't make sense.
Because interest rates are high or what?
Yeah, interest rates are higher, and there's a potential that it could actually cost us a lot more money than save us money in the long run. So we didn't have the evidence that showed that this was a good time for us to do the pension obligation bond. I also did not support, and my colleagues followed my lead on this, us putting money into the Southwest Service Facility right now, because we don't have a real estate master plan to talk about, are we going to keep that service facility? Are we going to move more vehicle repairs to that facility? Until we have the real estate master plan in the fall, there's no reason to throw a bunch of money into that facility. So what was ultimately passed by council was all of the public safety propositions, and that's what's going to be pushed to voters in November, which is a public safety bond proposition.
So this bond's going to have a new downtown fire station, new 911 center, a number of different things, but it's all public safety here. That's going to fill a gap here, but when you zoom out at all, do you expect, how big of a gap do you expect there to be remaining if this passes from voters?
Well, the main parts of this bond proposition
will fill it all?
Support the police academy and the training facility that's going to probably go at Executive Airport. Those two provisions are what we need to complete that work, which the voters initially approved in the 2024 bond. Right. We knew at that time it wasn't going to be enough money to finish it, but we needed to get that out to show the private donors that, hey, if you send us, if you commit to this project, the city voters will put up this much money. So this is the second tranche of money to support completion of the police academy and then the training facility, the gun range and all that stuff that they need for us to compete with nationally to get the best officers here in Dallas. The other provisions within that's the evidence room, the new fire station 4, and then what am I missing? Oh, the relocation of the 911 center.
Do you expect pushback at all on this bond in November?
I know there's at least one council member who has indicated they are going to be against the bond because they do not support, they only support the police academy provisions in that. So I think there will be some nuanced discussion, but at the end of the day, the question is, do you support public safety or don't you?
How about budget cuts? Let me ask you this, on budget cuts, how about, do you expect the city's going to have to make any more job cuts?
City managers indicated that through efficiencies and through consolidations of departments, and then also through AI, that there are some job cuts in the city. It's less than 1% of the total overall personnel.
But nothing else in addition to that, though. I think that was like, what, 300 total vacancies and then 100 actual people?
That sounds right.
Okay.
I don't have the number, but that sounds right. She has not indicated there's going to be any more at this time. But I think every year it's going to be the new normal that as we find more efficiencies, as we adopt technology in the city and AI, there's a potential that some jobs could be eliminated.
You think so? Every year that could be on the line?
I think it's possible. I mean, the city has got to embrace technology and AI just like private industry does. We've got to become more efficient, and I think AI can help us become more efficient. You still have to have personnel to assist with that, but the question is how many personnel.
Councilman, thank you.
Thank you.